Awesome. I'm so excited. Welcome to the Valuable Mind podcast. My name is Brandon Pony. Super excited to have Steve Moss with us this morning from Moss Consulting. This is going to be a really cool conversation. So, Steve and his wife started Moss Consulting about 3 years ago, and they are the duo. They are a duo. They both have very specific skills, and they married physically and literally married together to create a very, very impressive business. Their business specifically, Steve's been in sales for a long time, but their business has grown this year in 2025, year over year, over 72%. And it's halfway through the year right now, which is that does not happen by accident. Congratulations. I'm happy to have you, Steve. This is great.
Hey, thank you so much, Brendan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, I wanted to start though, to obviously just get the backstory, catch us up on, just about you, of course, and then of course about Moss.
Absolutely. And Moss Consulting, the business has been in business for coming on 8 years. I've been full time with Moss Consulting for the last three. And so we got the concept. My wife is just this really incredible person. She's very magnetic and has made some really great trust relationships out there in the Austin market and the Dallas market and beyond. So she was in HR and office management and found herself managing two different companies at the same time. She had an IP law firm that I believe was about 26, 28 people, and then a commercial real estate firm that did some development and mostly management. That was another, I want to say, eight or 10 people at the same time. I came home on a Tuesday afternoon, and she was home at 2:30, 3 o'clock. And I was like, what are you doing? You got all these people that are depending on you. And she said, well, I put it together. I set really clear expectations. I've got a channel for them to address these questions. I've got a way for them to, get answers in other ways. And so at the time, I jokingly said, I wonder how many you can manage at one time. And it really sparked this conversation between us of probably for the next 2 months, talking about how can we address the HR need for small and medium-sized businesses in a way that's really different. And there's lots of books on fractional business models and how to come in as an outside resource and kind of fill some of these major holes in small medium-sized businesses. We didn't read any of those books. We just kind of figured it out on our way. And the way that we did it is, I followed Nicole and her lead. She got close with these business owners. In the beginning, as our own business, we started out doing primarily recruiting. COVID hit, recruiting stopped. I went out in my kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon. Maybe it was a Wednesday. I don't know. I probably shouldn't use the same day in the stories, but I went out to the kitchen one work day, and it's like 2 o'clock. She's cleaning out a drawer in the kitchen, and I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And she says, "Oh, well, all of our clients called this morning, and everything's on hold." And so we sat down at the kitchen table and we said, our clients now have new pain and new challenges and new experiences that nobody expected, even as far back as yesterday. Nobody's planned for this. What is that pain and how can we address it? So helping the business owners with their loans, helping the business owners lay people off and then hire them back. That really led us into this HR space. And what we do now is a full HR outsourcing service. So we act as the HR department for small and medium-sized businesses, primarily in Texas, but also outside of Texas. Our average client has between 20 and 50 employees, but we have clients that have 500 and 300 employees, and really everywhere in between. And so recruiting is a big part of our growth strategy. That's kind of the front of this full cycle. We do the recruiting, we do the onboarding, we support that client through their entire life cycle with, we support them with benefits administration, we support them with, issues that come up in the workplace that we help them through. We do quarterly and yearly reviews to ensure that they're developing as professionals and performing the functions that have been laid out in front of them. Really we
Wow.
act as that director of HR, the HR manager, and HR generalist that they would need. But they only have to pay for what they use because we're in a fractional model and we bill by the hour.
That's so cool. One thing that I think sticks out the biggest, at least to me, is the fact that you do onboarding and offboarding. There's a list of other things, HR, payroll, but the offboarding part, that's the not so fun part. And most businesses and most companies, they like to do what's fun and glamorous or what's easy and kind of fun to do. But that's like, that's stuff that's not the fun, that's the dirty work. And you guys actually do that. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so we had the honor recently of replacing a HR professional up in Dallas for one of our clients who had passed. Kind of
Mm.
a sad situation, and we were talking a little bit about this the other day, and they said that her nickname was the Hammer. That she brought it down, or I'm sorry, excuse me, the axe. She was the axe that she brought it down when it needed to be done. And we laughed and didn't say anything right then, but look forward to kind of relating to them that Nicole is known as the sickle. That there are times because we're managing the HR for these companies, that's when they see us. You think a 20, 30 person client, they don't need HR on site every single day. They don't need us. They don't need this constant communication with us. They need us to put together systems so that they can function productively, but then also to be available to them. So sometimes they don't see us for a little while, and then they see Nicole, and someone goes into the conference room and comes out with a box. And everyone knows what happened. So then the next time Nicole comes in, everyone's, sitting up straight and kind of a little exactly, it's like getting invited out to the desert by a gangster. So it's that's a terrible analogy, but yeah, no, that's an uncomfortable part of it. And Nicole has just made herself comfortable there. And I think the way that she does it is she does it with compassion. We were talking earlier about how we really try and provide business services through the lens of the other side of the table or the other side of the desk. So we think about, if I were in this position, it can be humiliating. It's scary. Someone's losing the way that they earn a living. Um, that maybe their reputation is in challenge here because they weren't performing or something happened that's going to perhaps follow them, and it's not a comfortable time. So I think leading with compassion helps us be effective there. The first and most important thing that we're always looking at is risk for our employers, for the clients that we work for. The first thing that we look at it, and before the phone even rings, it's how do we protect these business owners from getting sued, from any kind of legal ramification from just them doing their regular business. So that's what we're looking at first, and then second is compassion and making sure that we're doing it in a way that not we would want it done to us, but that it makes it most comfortable and productive for everybody.
Wow. Love that. Yeah. I like to sleep at night too. That's it's pretty
It's hard to do. She's figured out how to do it. She
kind of
does a couple
important.
of weeks sometimes, and you know, I, I think it's clear. Clear is kind. A good friend of ours says that just giving people really clear communication, being quick, giving you the information, giving you a second to absorb it, and then moving forward. I think that's the best way to go. And I'll tell you myself that, if you're in a position that doesn't feel good, it's stressful. If you don't know what's expected of you, or you don't feel like you can perform that task productively, it doesn't feel right. Your business life, your professional life is a third of who you are as a human. And if that's out of alignment, it really affects these other parts of your life. So it sounds so cliche and such like a canned thing to say, but giving these people the opportunity to go and find something that feels successful to them and gives them, happiness and to feel truly successful, that's what we got to keep in the back of our mind that, they're not going to love us today. They're definitely not going to love us tomorrow morning when they wake up and they're thinking about this. But when 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road, they're in a position and they go home at night and they're like, yeah, I did it today. That was great. I knew it was expected of me. I could do it. I feel like I'm good at it. That feeling is it's so valuable. So we got to keep in mind that we're helping people take a really uncomfortable step to get to a better place.
Huge. That's huge. And it's yeah, it's obvious that's it's at your core as a business and who you guys are. It's just so cool. So now let's talk about these wins. This year is 2025. Seems to be a great year. Something's in the water, something's in the air. Didn't happen by accident. Your growth is substantial. So tell us a little bit about like how did we get here? How did this happen?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit.
So, y- Nicole Moss, who is I jokingly say the H and the R of our HR company, who really focuses on building these relationships with these employers and our clients. We talk about two things. We talk about pain and we talk about trust. So when we first come in to engage with a new client, they're in pain. They didn't nobody calls HR because it's great. They don't want to say, "Hey, I just bought a new car. I'm excited." No one's like, "Oh, just hear about my day at the beach." They're in pain. They're calling us because they're in pain, and so we need to address that pain. And so sometimes that's not comfortable in the beginning. What we find is that sometimes they need to sign our contract to know that they're under our NDA and all these things for some of the true pain to come out. But addressing that pain with compassion, um, being small business owners ourselves for several years now, a lot of those pains we understand. A lot of those pains we've been through ourselves. So we're able to kind of, communicate with them and drive from their point of view toward solutions that eliminate that pain and protect them. And in most of those scenarios, helping them solve their pain, us making their pain our pain, that builds trust. And trust generally we talk about it. It comes once. It's built up over time, but once you lose it, you can never get it back the way you had it. So we're just very intentional in the way that we communicate with our clients, as far as setting expectations, as far as being respectful and of their time and being available. That's where those wins come from. So, Nicole has just done an incredible job building some of these partnerships, and building this trust and these relationships with our clients that, as I was telling you earlier, once or twice a week right now, we're getting an email of someone saying, "Hey, I heard about you from this current client of yours or this partner that you've created in the industry. We have some pain." They never say that, but they say, "We have this employee issue we need help with, or the person we were working with is no longer available to us, or something else happened." And those warm referrals coming from a place of trust. You start with your feet on the ground. You don't have, we go through the steps of proving who we are, but one degree of separation, that level of connection, it starts with a little bit of that trust in place, and it's a great platform for us to grow on.
Absolutely. Wow. Very, very cool. It's working out and you built the platform for it and you can handle it. So this trajectory, obviously no one knows the future, but you've laid the groundwork. The business has been around for, several years, 8 years plus. What do you think where do you see, where do you see things kind of moving, in the next, 2026, 2027?
Yeah. So we have some real challenges that we're addressing in our business model. One is that we're primarily an hour. I say primarily, we're solely an hourly consultant. So when we first started the business, it just felt like the most honest transaction. There's a lot of people in the space where we're at, in the fractional HR and HR outsourcing. They'll provide, or they'll charge what's called a PEPM, or a per employee per month fee, or they'll have, whatever these fees are every month that they need, that the client needs to pay just to have the privilege of calling you and using your service on an hourly basis. We decided not to do that, because there are months where we're very engaged with our clients, especially in the beginning, to help them fix pains and issues that they came to us for. But then there are months that they're quiet. And as small business owners, we are watching our cash flow every day, and things where we don't feel like we're getting value, they tend to go away from us. We tend not to keep them, and we tend not to feel good about them if we have to. You get me talking about SaaS. I used to own software. It's not possible anymore, but I digress. So it's a matter of providing a service that we feel good about. So the challenge becomes AI is here. And I know that that's your space, and that automating things and making them easier, making them take 20 minutes, whereas before they took 4 or 5 hours, that there's money there. There's growth there and there's possibility there. So, and we recognize that, but that is, I wouldn't call it a threat, but that's a modifier or a need to modify our business model. Because, if you come to me with a employee handbook, last year, 2 years ago, that's an 8 or 10 hour thing. Now with some of the tools that we have access to, that could take less time. Well, how do we maintain our revenue and stay healthy as a company so that we can have good quality people to provide those services, at a much shorter range, if we're judging our revenue by time, or we're gauging our revenue by time? So as common tasks take less time to perform, it's our responsibility to be the most efficient that we can be for our client. But it has us thinking about perhaps changing that business model of being an hourly billing only company. That's probably our biggest challenge today. Beyond that, scaling, assigning and tracking tasks is a challenge that every business has, especially in the early growth stages. And as much as we've been here for 8 years, we're still a pretty young company. The growth that's ahead of us is significant. The growth that we've had this year is significant. So, when you have growth at that level, your systems, your team, everything needs to evolve to manage that additional volume of support that you're providing. And that's hard to do. It's hard, it's homeostasis. One thing, I right now we have more clients than we have. I don't want to say capacity, but we have more clients, and we recognize the need to increase capacity because I'm more comfortable when we're here, when my capacity is just a little higher than our demand. But the demand has been so high that as much as we're racing to keep up and to build our systems and to strengthen our company to support these people, it's hard to do. So that's the phase that we're in right now. Is we're in that catch up phase, and then when we get up here, it'll be okay. Let's do some marketing. We haven't done much marketing. We've got a really neat story to tell. So I don't know. There's always going to be challenges there. Those are the ones we have today.
So cool to hear. It's obvious you guys built the framework, you built the foundation that was able to handle this growth and more growth to come. And it's so cool. And so I meant to mention, yeah, so mossconsulting.com, his wife Nicole is like the face, rightfully so, beautifully laid out. Also, Easton Park is their podcast that they run. They have over 70 episodes. Nicole is the face of the podcast, does amazing. So go check that out for sure. That will be linked a part of this podcast. So awesome. Awesome to have you on, Steve. This was great.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to continuing our discussion about some AI tools that you've talked about and some solutions you can help us with, and just kind of seeing how you can help address that pain for our company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a crazy time we live in and everything's getting smarter. And as we adapt, just like your business was primed for this growth, it's the same. So cool.
Excellent. Well, I wish you great success, and this is just the start of our business relationship together. So I look forward to seeing what comes next.
You got it. Awesome. This is the Valuable Mind podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon.